Chapter 1. The Unexpected Summoning. The vast emptiness of space had always been Jonah's sanctuary and his prison. Out here on the fringes of known civilization, on Zelphur V, a dusty mining colony that clung stubbornly to the edge of galactic charts, Jonah lived a life far removed from the bustling metropolises and starports of core worlds. His days were a monotonous cycle of repairing rusted mining drones, recalibrating ancient energy cores, and scavenging whatever scraps of technology he could barter for basic supplies. His hands were perpetually stained with grease and grime, fingers hardened by years of manual labor. Yet there was an unspoken satisfaction in bringing to life the relics of civilizations long past. Every hum of a powered-up engine or flicker of a repaired circuit was a quiet triumph, a whisper of life reclaimed from the cold silence of space. But beneath the surface of this ordinary existence, Jonah harbored a secret, one that set him apart in ways he himself scarcely understood. The arrival of the holographic summons was sudden and surreal. In the cramped confines of his workshop, amid scattered tools and half-disassembled drones, the air shimmered as a pale blue light coalesced into a figure, tall, regal, and shimmering like liquid sapphire. The elderly matriarch's form radiated an ancient grace that seemed to bend the very light around her, her eyes pools of fathomless depth and wisdom that held the weight of millennia. Her voice, when she spoke, was a melody woven from the echoes of distant stars and forgotten worlds, soft yet commanding enough to silence the buzzing machinery and the distant hum of the mining colony. "You have been chosen," she intoned, her gaze piercing Jonah's very soul through the flickering holographic projection. "Chosen by the lineage of the elderly to become a consort in the sacred bond of breeding. Your genetics carry the mark of destiny, the promise of a new era for our people and yours." The words reverberated through the small room, filling the air with a charged stillness that seemed to suspend time itself. Jonah's heart pounded as disbelief wrestled with curiosity. The elderly were known throughout the galaxy for their inscrutable traditions and their selective nature, rarely extending such an honor beyond their own kind. To be summoned as a human, a species they regarded as primitive and unpredictable, was unprecedented. Yet Jonah sensed there was more to this summons than mere chance. His body, scarred and hardened from years of survival in environments hostile enough to break most, held within it the echoes of genetic experiments and mutations unknown even to him. He was no ordinary human. His cells had adapted to extremes, radiation that should have burned him to ash, gravity wells that threatened to crush his bones, toxins that would have felled lesser beings. He possessed a resilience that was both a curse and a blessing, a power latent and untapped, waiting for the moment to awaken. It was this latent strength, a whisper of an ancient and forgotten lineage of human evolution, that had drawn the elderly's attention. As the matriarch's image faded into the ether, replaced by a set of coordinates and instructions shimmering before him, Jonah felt the weight of the galaxy settle upon his shoulders. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, steeped in traditions alien and possibly perilous. To answer the call was to step beyond the bounds of humanity's understanding and into a world of cosmic politics, ancient rites, and profound transformation. He was being called to breed, but in this union, he was no ordinary participant. He was a key to a future neither species could fully foresee. The journey to the elderly homeworld was itself a trial. Jonah boarded a sleek, almost organic-looking starcraft delivered by elderly envoys, its hull pulsing with bioluminescent energy and advanced technologies that bent the very fabric of space. Inside, the ship's corridors shimmered with ethereal light, and the air vibrated with a harmony that soothed his restless spirit. As the stars streaked by in elongated ribbons, Jonah's mind churned with questions. What awaited him beyond the stars? What sacrifices would this sacred bond demand? And most pressing, what secrets lay buried in his own blood, waiting to be unearthed by the elderly's ancient rites? When the ship finally entered orbit around the elderly homeworld, a planet of crystalline oceans and towering spires that pierced clouds like the fingers of gods, Jonah was led through halls carved from living crystal and gardens that glowed softly under alien moons. He was brought before the Council of Elders, beings of ageless power and serene authority, their presence a testament to the species' millennia of wisdom and survival. Among them stood the matriarch who had summoned him, her gaze steady and filled with expectation. "You are not merely chosen for breeding," she explained, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "You are the bridge between two worlds, the harbinger of a lineage that must blend strength with spirit, humanity with the transcendent. Your unique heritage holds the key to the future." Jonah felt the magnitude of her words seep into his bones. This was no simple honor. It was a burden and a responsibility unlike any he had ever imagined. As the chamber filled with the soft hum of elderly chants and the glow of ancestral sigils, Jonah realized that his journey had only just begun. To become the consort of a mature elderly was to enter a covenant older than stars, a bond that would test every facet of his being. Yet, beneath the awe and the fear, a fire kindled within him, the fire of destiny, of power awakening, of a man who was no ordinary human finally stepping into his true legacy. The weight of the elderly matriarch's summons settled over Jonah like a tidal wave, disorienting yet impossible to ignore. In the dim glow of his cluttered workshop, surrounded by the hum of ancient machinery and the faint scent of scorched metal, Jonah found himself grappling with a destiny that stretched far beyond the dusty confines of Zelphur V. The holographic projection had vanished, but her words echoed relentlessly in his mind, reverberating against the walls of his small existence. "Chosen to forge a new lineage between our species, a bond transcending stars." The enormity of the claim was almost laughable in his ears, a mechanic's son plucked from obscurity to enter the arcane rituals of an alien aristocracy renowned across the galaxy for their inscrutable customs and formidable power. Yet beneath the surface of incredulity simmered a primal instinct and undercurrent of readiness that Jonah himself barely understood. He reached up to touch the scar on his forearm, a jagged mark from a childhood accident amid the radioactive wastes of a forgotten mining outpost. That scar, like many others etched across his body, was a silent testament to survival in environments that had crushed countless others. But it was more than just physical resilience. It was a sign of his difference. Something within his DNA set him apart, genetic quirks inherited from shadowy experiments, whispers of ancient evolutionary branches that had long since faded from the collective memory of humankind. His body responded to stress with unnatural efficiency. His reflexes were sharper, his endurance far beyond any ordinary man. He was, in the purest sense, an anomaly, and that anomaly had drawn the attention of the elderly. Jonah's thoughts were interrupted by a faint chime from his console, blinking insistently. It was the coordinates embedded in the summons, a location on the far side of the galaxy, near the elderly home system. The invitation was clear: journey there, accept the bond, and become something new, something neither wholly human nor wholly alien, but a fusion of destinies. The choice was monumental, the risks incalculable, but Jonah felt a strange certainty stirring within him. To refuse would be to deny a path that had been laid out for him long before he'd even known his own name. Preparations began in a flurry of activity. Jonah gathered his few belongings, packed tools and essentials, and prepared to leave behind the life he'd known. The elderly ship that awaited him was unlike any vessel he had ever encountered, sleek, organic in design, humming with latent energy that seemed alive beneath its polished surface. As he stepped aboard, the ship's corridors shimmered with iridescent light, walls morphing subtly, as if breathing in rhythm with his own pulse. The air smelled faintly of ozone and ancient forests, a sensory blend that unsettled and intrigued him in equal measure. Jonah was alone in this alien craft, hurtling toward a destiny that no human before him had ever faced. During the journey, Jonah meditated on the legends he had heard, tales of the elderly's ancient breeding rites, complex ceremonies that bound soul to soul, species to species, in sacred pacts that shaped the very future of their civilization. The elderly, with their towering forms and luminous skin that shifted colors like living gems, had always regarded humans as wild cards, unpredictable, chaotic, but undeniably vital in their own primitive way. Now, Jonah was to be the nexus of this uncertain fusion, a living bridge between humanity's raw tenacity and the elderly's transcendent wisdom. When the ship finally descended toward the elderly homeworld, Jonah's breath caught at the sight below. The planet was a breathtaking spectacle of crystalline spires that shimmered beneath violet skies, oceans glowing softly with bioluminescence, and forests where leaves seemed to pulse with an inner light. He was escorted through corridors carved from pure crystal, each step echoing in vast halls decorated with swirling patterns that danced like liquid starlight. Then, before the council of elders, ageless beings of serene power and piercing intellect, he was introduced to the mature elderly woman who had summoned him. Her presence was overwhelming, her eyes pools of ancient wisdom and unspoken command. She reached out a slender hand, her touch light but binding, and whispered, "Together, we will awaken a legacy long dormant. Are you ready to become more than you ever imagined?" Jonah met her gaze, feeling the latent strength within himself respond to the call. "I am," he said quietly, knowing that his life and the future of two species was about to change forever. Jonah's heartbeat echoed in his ears as he took those first tentative steps into the grand chamber of the Elderly Council. The air was thick with an energy that hummed faintly beneath the crystalline arches and mosaics, an ancient power that seemed woven into the very stones. Each elderly present exuded an aura of authority and centuries of wisdom, their skin shifting through a cascade of colors as their collective gaze fixed upon him. The matriarch, tall and regal beyond description, stepped forward, her voice weaving through the chamber like a gentle yet unyielding tide. "We have watched you, human. Your resilience, your hidden potential, marks you as one unlike any other. The sacred bond we offer is not mere ritual. It is a merging of destinies, a weaving of bloodlines that will herald a new epoch." Jonah nodded slowly, the gravity of her words sinking deep. His body, a tapestry of scars and strength, was ready to be tested in ways he had never imagined. The Elderly's traditions were complex, their expectations vast, but beneath the ceremony lay something deeper, a chance to transcend the limitations of his existence, to unlock powers seated long ago in his DNA. As the matriarch's hand reached for his, the chamber's light flared, and Jonah felt a surge of warmth and connection flood his senses. The ancient rites began a symphony of light, sound, and touch that transcended physicality. Symbols of power etched themselves into his skin in glowing runes, pulses of energy flowing through his veins. The vision of the future unfolded before him, a fusion of human tenacity and elderly grace, a new lineage destined to challenge the cosmos. As the ritual concluded, Jonah's breath came faster, his body humming with awakened potential. The matriarch's eyes softened, her smile both proud and tender. "You are no ordinary human. You are chosen." Chapter 2. A New World, a New Bond. The elderly homeworld unfolded beneath Jonah's feet like a dream sculpted from crystal and starlight. Vast cities rose from shimmering oceans, their spires piercing violet skies, reflecting the glow of multiple moons. Here, amid gardens that breathed with bioluminescent flora and rivers singing with the essence of ancient energies, Jonah was introduced to the life he would now share with the elderly, a life of honor, challenge, and profound transformation. The matriarch guided him through the sacred halls where generations of elderly had bonded and bred, their customs layered in complexity and beauty. Jonah was shown the sacred chambers where the bond would be sealed, spaces resonating with cosmic energies designed to harmonize disparate souls. It was here that he met Leora, an elderly woman of mature elegance and fierce intelligence, her form shimmering with iridescence that seemed to shift with every breath. Her eyes held centuries of knowledge, and yet they softened when they met his, recognizing the unique spark within. Leora's voice was like a melody as she spoke of their future. "Together, we are not just mates but bearers of hope. Our union will birth a new path, blending human resilience with elderly power." Jonah felt a mixture of awe and responsibility, knowing that their bond would ripple across the stars, challenging ancient prejudices and forging alliances unseen for millennia. As days passed in this luminous world, Jonah trained his body, pushed to new limits, his mind opened to alien philosophies and cosmic mysteries. The Vision Helmet, adapted by elderly scientists, enhanced his senses and connected him deeper to Leora, allowing them to share thoughts, emotions, and power in ways no human could have dreamed. He was no longer the mechanic from Zelfer V. He was a pivotal figure in a galactic saga that had only just begun. Yet, beneath the surface of this growing bond, whispers stirred. Not all Eldari welcomed this union. Old rivalries and fears lurked in shadowed halls, threatening to unravel the fragile peace. Jonah would have to prove himself not just through strength and endurance, but through wisdom and courage. For the future of two species and the fate of a newborn legacy rested squarely on his shoulders. The days on the Eldari homeworld unfolded like a tapestry woven from light and shadow, ancient tradition and burgeoning hope. Jonah found himself immersed in a culture both breathtakingly beautiful and intricately complex, a civilization whose very essence was steeped in millennia of history, ritual, and cosmic balance. The Eldari cities rose like crystalline cathedrals from shimmering oceans, their towers reflecting the soft glow of multiple moons and the swirling auroras that danced across violet skies. Every stone, every leaf seemed alive with a subtle energy, a pulse that echoed the rhythm of the universe itself. Jonah, once a simple mechanic on a dusty fringe planet, now walked paths trodden by beings who held the stars in their palms and spoke the language of light and time. His companion, Leora the matriarch who had chosen him, was a vision of ageless grace and fierce wisdom. Her skin shimmered with iridescent hues that shifted fluidly, reflecting her moods and the energies she commanded. Her eyes, deep and knowing, held the weight of centuries, but softened with warmth and curiosity when they met Jonah's gaze. Their bond, sealed through sacred rites and the melding of energies, was more than physical. It was a weaving of souls, a resonance of two species striving toward a shared destiny. The Vision Helmet, now enhanced with Eldari biotech, bridged the gulf between their minds, allowing them to communicate beyond words, sharing thoughts, feelings, and powers in a profound symphony of connection. Jonah's training began in earnest. Eldari masters taught him to harness the subtle currents of cosmic energy, to attune his body and mind to frequencies that transcended human senses. The physical trials pushed him beyond the limits he once thought possible: strength, agility, endurance, but it was the mental and spiritual disciplines that challenged him most. Meditation beneath the glowing crystal groves, navigating labyrinths of light and shadow within the ancient temples, and rituals that wove his essence into the fabric of Eldari history reshaped his understanding of self and purpose. He was no longer just a survivor. He was becoming a conduit for a legacy that demanded courage and sacrifice. Yet, beneath the luminous surface of this majestic world, tensions simmered. The Eldari Council, a body of ancient and powerful beings, was divided. Many revered Jonah's unique potential, the merging of human resilience with Eldari transcendence, but others viewed him with suspicion, a wild card that threatened centuries of careful tradition. Whispers floated through the grand halls and shadowed corridors, murmurs of dissent and fear that the introduction of a human into their sacred bloodlines might unravel the delicate balance of power. Jonah sensed the undercurrents of politics and prejudice, the challenge of proving himself not just worthy of the bond, but indispensable to the future it promised. Leora stood by his side through it all, a pillar of strength and guidance. She shared stories of their people's history, tales of ancient wars and alliances, of cosmic cycles and rebirths, and of the rare times when the Eldari had reached beyond their own kind to forge bonds that transcended species. Together, they prepared for the ceremony of unity, a rite of passage that would solidify their bond before the Council and the galaxy. It was a test of not only their connection, but of Jonah's ability to navigate the complexities of Eldari society and destiny. As the day of the ceremony approached, Jonah found himself standing at the precipice of transformation. He was a man reborn, a blend of human tenacity and alien grace, poised to become a symbol of hope and change. Yet, the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. The galaxy watched, waiting for this union to either ignite a new era or unravel into conflict. Jonah knew that to succeed, he would have to embrace every part of himself, the ordinary and the extraordinary alike, and face the future with unwavering resolve. The night before the ceremony of unity, the Eldari homeworld seemed to hold its breath. Moonlight filtered through crystalline leaves, casting ethereal patterns on the ground as Jonah walked alongside Leora through the sacred gardens. The air was thick with the scent of alien blossoms that shimmered faintly in the dark, and the distant song of the Eldery, a haunting melody that seemed to ripple across the cosmos itself. Here, away from the eyes of the council and the judgments of the many who doubted him, Jonah felt a rare moment of peace. Leora's hand found his, their fingers intertwining in a silent promise that transcended words. She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the constellation-strewn sky. "You carry more than strength, Jonah. You carry hope for our people and for your own. This bond is not merely for breeding. It is a pact to create a future where both our kinds can thrive." Jonah nodded, feeling the weight and warmth of her conviction settle deep inside him. He thought of his origins, the hardships he had faced on the frontier worlds, and the secrets buried in his blood mutations and latent powers he was only beginning to understand. Here, in this moment, those fragments coalesced into something greater. He was no ordinary human. He was a key to change. The ceremony itself was a spectacle of light and sound beyond Jonah's imagining. The council chamber, carved from living crystal and pulsating with ancient energies, was filled with elderly nobility and emissaries from distant star systems. The air shimmered as Jonah and Leora stepped forward, their energies intertwining in a dance of radiant hues. Elderly priests intoned chants that resonated through the chamber, weaving a tapestry of cosmic power around them. Symbols of union appeared glowing upon Jonah's skin, intertwining with the runes already etched from earlier rites, binding them irrevocably to Leora. As the ceremony reached its crescendo, Jonah felt a surge unlike any before, an awakening that pierced his very soul. The latent powers in his blood flared to life, intertwining with the Eldery's cosmic essence. He could see through Leora's eyes, feel the pulse of her heart, and hear the distant songs of a universe vast and alive. He was transformed not just in body but in spirit. Yet as the ceremony ended, a shadow flickered at the edges of the chamber, a whispered warning that the path forward would not be easy. The Eldery were proud and cautious, and not all welcomed the future Jonah represented. There would be trials ahead, political intrigue, ancient rivalries, and enemies who feared the power of this new alliance. Chapter 3: Shadows of Doubt and Power Awakened. The days following the ceremony of unity were marked by both celebration and unease. Jonah and Leora found themselves at the center of a maelstrom of attention, admiration from allies who saw in their bond the hope for renewal, and suspicion from those who whispered of betrayal and danger. The council remained divided, their debates veiled in formality, but heavy with undercurrents of distrust. To some, Jonah was a savior. To others, a wild card that threatened to unravel centuries of carefully balanced tradition. As Jonah trained further under Eldery masters, he felt his powers grow in ways both exhilarating and frightening. The fusion of human resilience and Eldery cosmic energy unlocked new abilities, heightened senses that pierced the fabric of reality, strength that defied natural limits, and an intuitive command over the flow of energies that could heal or destroy. Yet mastery required discipline, and the shadows of doubt cast by his critics fueled a fire within him to prove his worth. One evening, as he practiced weaving energy currents in the Grand Gardens, a messenger arrived with urgent news. A faction within the Eldery, opposed to human integration, was mobilizing covertly. Their intent was clear: to sever the bond before it could fully manifest its power. The fragile alliance Jonah and Leora had forged now faced threats not only from external enemies, but from within. Leora's hand found Jonah's, steady and reassuring. "We face darkness, but together we shine brighter. The future we build depends on our strength and on our trust." Jonah nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle, but also the growing certainty that he was no ordinary human. He was chosen not just to breed, but to lead, to bridge worlds, and to awaken a power that could reshape the galaxy itself. The tension that simmered beneath the polished surface of Eldery society was a living, breathing thing, one that Jonah could feel prickling at the edges of every encounter, every whispered conversation behind crystalline walls. The faction opposed to human integration, veiled in the guise of tradition and purity, moved with subtlety and precision, their agents weaving webs of intrigue designed to undermine Jonah's newfound position. At first, the attacks were barely perceptible. A disapproving glance from a high priest during a ritual, coded warnings whispered in council chambers, and the silent withdrawal of allies who once greeted him warmly. But beneath the courteous veneer lurked a growing menace, a coalition determined to preserve an ancient order and to cast out the alien element they saw embodied in him. Jonah knew the stakes. This was no longer just a personal trial, it was a crucible testing the very foundations of elderly culture and the fragile hope of unity between species. With Leora's support, he began to navigate the labyrinthine politics, seeking allies among those who believed in change and progress. The elderly masters who trained him extended their guidance beyond power and control, teaching him the subtle art of diplomacy, the importance of patience, and the strength found in vulnerability. Each lesson etched itself into Jonah's spirit, forging a leader capable of bridging worlds. Yet power, once awakened, demanded mastery. The fusion of human resilience and elderly cosmic energy that pulsed within Jonah was a tempest, unpredictable and overwhelming. There were nights when his dreams were flooded with visions, fragments of ancient memories not his own, echoes of elderly ancestors who had faced similar crossroads. In these visions, he saw vast wars, cataclysms that had nearly shattered civilizations, and the fragile threads of hope that had survived to knit new alliances. Waking, Jonah found himself changed, more aware of the cosmic forces swirling around him and more attuned to the responsibility his unique heritage entailed. One evening, as the twin moons bathed the crystalline city in silver light, a summons came from the council itself. Jonah and Leora were to face a tribunal, a public trial orchestrated by the opposing faction to challenge the legitimacy of their bond. The chamber where the tribunal was held was cavernous, its walls shimmering with ancient sigils and echoes of countless ceremonies. Elderly nobility and emissaries from across the galaxy gathered, their eyes sharp, their whispers hushed but tense. The tribunal was both a test and a spectacle. Jonah stood beside Leora as voices rose, questioning his origins, his nature, and the very right of a human to partake in elderly lineage. The opposition wielded tradition like a weapon, invoking laws and precedents that had stood unchallenged for millennia. Yet Jonah did not falter. Drawing upon the strength that had been nurtured in him, he spoke not only of his unique abilities and resilience, but of the greater destiny he shared with Leora, the promise of unity, survival, and evolution. Leora's voice joined his, strong and unwavering, a testament to their bond. Our union is the convergence of past and future. It embodies the hope that our species can transcend fear and division, forging a new path where strength is measured not by bloodline purity, but by courage, love, and the will to endure. The chamber was silent for a moment that stretched into eternity, then erupted in murmurs and shifting alliances. Though the opposition remained vocal, the undeniable power radiating from Jonah and Leora, the fusion of human spirit and elderly wisdom, began to sway the hearts of many. The tribunal's verdict would not come easily, but the tide was turning. As they left the chamber, Jonah felt a new resolve settle within him. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but also illuminated by possibility. He was no ordinary human. He was a catalyst and agent of change whose legacy would ripple across stars. With Leora by his side, he would face whatever shadows awaited and carve a future where two worlds could unite as one. The aftermath of the tribunal left the elderly homeworld abuzz with unrest. Though Jonah and Leora emerged with their bond intact, the victory was tenuous, a fragile flame flickering in the midst of swirling doubts and quiet conspiracies. The faction opposed to the Union did not fade into obscurity. Instead, their machinations grew bolder, weaving into the very fabric of elderly society. Jonah found himself both revered and reviled, a symbol of hope to some, a harbinger of upheaval to others. His every move was watched, every word dissected by those who feared the blending of human unpredictability with elderly power. Leora remained his steadfast anchor amidst the storm, her strength and wisdom guiding him through the labyrinth of politics and ancient customs. Together, they faced challenges that tested not only their bond but the very limits of their abilities. The Vision Helmet, once a tool of connection, now became a conduit of immense power, amplifying Jonah's latent gifts to new heights. With it, he could glimpse threads of fate, perceive energies beyond mortal senses, and touch the fabric of reality itself. But such power came at a cost: physical exhaustion, mental strain, and the constant shadow of corruption that threatened to consume those who wielded cosmic forces without balance. It was during one of these intense sessions of training and meditation that an urgent message arrived, a call from the outer colonies. Reports of violent uprisings, alien incursions, and unexplained phenomena were flooding in, and the Elderly Council feared that the fragile peace was cracking under pressure. The Elderly homeworld, once a bastion of stability and ancient wisdom, now faced threats both internal and external, and the union of human and Elderly blood was seen as the key to navigating the chaos ahead. Jonah and Leora were tasked with leading a diplomatic and military mission to the troubled colonies. Their journey was fraught with peril, navigating star systems torn by war, encountering factions wary of change, and facing enemies who sought to exploit division for their gain. Yet, through every challenge, Jonah's unique blend of human adaptability and Elderly power proved invaluable. He negotiated peace where guns could have spoken, healed rifts with words and deeds, and fought fiercely when battle was inevitable. As they approached the largest colony under siege, Jonah's mind sharpened with anticipation. The Vision helmet fed him data streams, strategic overlays, and subtle cues from Leora's own senses melded with his. The stakes had never been higher. Together, they would face a crucible that could either solidify their legacy or shatter it forever. Chapter 4: The Crucible of War. The colony of Tarsus Prime lay before them, a sprawling network of domes and spires nestled beneath a storm-racked sky. Smoke billowed from the outskirts where rebel factions clashed with Elderly peacekeepers, while unknown alien marauders exploited the chaos to seize power. Jonah and Leora descended into the heart of the conflict, their arrival a beacon of hope for some and a spark of fear for others. The ground trembled beneath the thunder of war machines and the crackle of energy weapons, but amidst the turmoil, the union of human and Elderly shone like a guiding star. Jonah's voice rang clear as he addressed the beleaguered defenders. "We stand not as conquerors, but as partners. Together, we can restore peace and forge a future where all our peoples thrive." His words carried the weight of experience and conviction, amplified by the Elderly's ancient cadence woven through Leora's speech. Yet, beneath the call for unity lurked hidden enemies, those who would see the union broken and the galaxy plunged into darkness. As battle erupted anew, Jonah unleashed the full spectrum of his abilities. The Vision helmet's energy coursed through him, empowering strikes that shattered armor and defenses alike. Leora moved beside him, her own mastery of cosmic forces bending light and matter to protect and heal. Together, they carved a path through chaos, a living testament to the power of fusion and trust. But the true test awaited deeper within the colony's labyrinthine warrens, where shadows whispered of betrayal and ancient grudges. To secure the future they envisioned, Jonah and Leora would have to confront not only external foes but the demons lurking within their own ranks. The chaos of Tarsus Prime was a maelstrom of fire and shadow, where every step forward was paid for in blood and sacrifice. The domed city, once a beacon of Elderly advancement and harmony, now lay fractured, its gleaming spires cracked, its streets stained with the scars of rebellion and invasion. Jonah and Leora moved through the turmoil like a force of nature, their presence a rallying point for desperate defenders and a harbinger of doom to their enemies. The Vision helmet pulsed with radiant energy, weaving a shield of light around Jonah as his fists and mind struck with newfound precision and power. Leora's hands shimmered with cosmic fire, healing wounds and dismantling barriers with effortless grace. But the greater threat lurked in the shadows. Deep within the underlevels of the colony, a faction of dissenters, Elderly traditionalists who rejected the Union, had seized control of vital systems and weapons caches. Their leader, a ruthless and cunning elder named Sirith, harbored a deep-seated hatred not just for Jonah, but for the very idea of change. To him, the blending of human and Elderly blood was an abomination that threatened to unravel the purity and power of their ancient race. Siritha's plans were clear: to ignite a civil war that would tear the colony apart and force the council to sever the bond forever. Jonah and Leora knew the path to peace lay through confrontation. With a small contingent of loyalists, they descended into the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Tarsus Prime, the air thick with the metallic tang of conflict and the echo of whispered betrayals. Each step brought them closer to Siritha's stronghold, a fortress of shadows where ancient grievances festered like wounds refusing to heal. The tension was palpable, a powder keg waiting for a spark. As they breached the stronghold's gates, a fierce battle erupted. Siritha's forces, equipped with dark energy weapons and reinforced armor, fought with desperate ferocity. Yet Jonah's combination of human ingenuity and elderly cosmic mastery proved overwhelming. His strikes shattered defenses once thought impenetrable. Leora's cosmic flames swept through ranks of foes, purifying corrupted energies and inspiring allies. The Vision Helmet's strategic interface guided their every move, turning chaos into calculated precision. In the heart of the stronghold, Jonah faced Siritha, an imposing figure whose every movement radiated cold menace and centuries of grudged power. Their confrontation was as much a clash of ideals as of fists and energy, a battle between the old order and the new dawn Jonah embodied. Words were exchanged, bitter, searing words about legacy, purity, and the fear of change, but when words failed, raw power spoke. The duel shook the very foundations of the fortress. Energy flared and shadows danced as Jonah tapped into the deepest reserves of his hybrid power, melding human adaptability with elderly cosmic force. Siritha's assaults, fierce and relentless, met with Jonah's unyielding resolve and strength born of unity. In the end, it was not just power that prevailed, but the conviction that the future belonged to those willing to embrace change. With Sirith defeated and his followers dispersed, Jonah and Leora emerged from the shadows to a colony beginning to heal. The battle had tested their bond and their resolve, but it had also proven the strength of their union, an emblem of hope that could inspire a fractured galaxy. As Tarsus Prime rebuilt beneath the light of distant stars, Jonah realized that his journey was far from over. He was no ordinary human, nor merely an elderly consort. He was a bridge between worlds, a catalyst for a new epic. Together with Leora, he would face whatever challenges awaited, shaping a future where unity and strength could rise from the ashes of old fears. The aftermath of the confrontation in Siritha's stronghold sent ripples of relief and cautious hope through the battered colony of Tarsus Prime. Jonah and Leora stood side by side atop the fractured steps of the council hall, their silhouettes framed by the twin moons glowing softly above. Around them, the surviving elderly and humans gathered, wounded but unbroken, their eyes filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The alliance forged through struggle had endured its harshest test, proving that unity was more than idealism. It was survival. Jonah looked to Leora, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat echoing in his chest through the still active neural link of the Vision Helmet. They were partners in every sense, bound not only by ceremony, but by shared trials and the unshakable conviction that their union was the key to the galaxy's future. The whispers of dissent had not vanished entirely, but the overwhelming tide of support for change now pulsed stronger, carried by the courage of those willing to embrace a new dawn. As the colony began the slow work of healing, rebuilding, and forging new alliances, Jonah felt something stir within him, an awakening beyond physical power, beyond cosmic energy. It was the profound understanding that he was part of a living legacy, a lineage destined to reshape civilizations. No longer merely a mechanic from a forgotten mining world, he was a symbol of possibility, a beacon that illuminated the path toward coexistence and evolution. Leora stepped forward to address the assembly, her voice resonating with grace and determination. The bond we share transcends blood and species. It is a promise that the future is not written by fear or isolation, but by connection, courage, and hope. Together, we will build a galaxy where no being is lesser, where all can thrive in harmony. The crowd responded with a chorus of agreement, their unified voices carrying through the starlit night like a vow echoing across the cosmos. Epilogue: the dawn of a new era. Years passed, and the legacy of Jonah and Leora blossomed across the stars. Their children, born of human resilience and elderly grace, embodied the best of both worlds, beings of immense strength, wisdom, and empathy who bridged cultures and fostered peace. The once fractured colonies flourished under the light of this new lineage. Alliances formed where hostility once reigned, and old prejudices began to fade like dying stars. Jonah often found himself gazing toward the horizon of distant suns, his thoughts wandering to the humble origins from which his extraordinary journey had sprung. He had been chosen, yes, but it was the choices he made, the trust he built, and the strength he embraced that truly shaped his destiny. In the great halls of the elderly homeworld, stories were told of the human who dared to cross the divide, who faced shadows within and without, and who ignited a revolution of unity. His name became legend, a testament to the power of being no ordinary human, but a catalyst for change that echoed through the galaxy. And so, amid the stars and endless possibilities, a new chapter began, one where the boundaries of species blurred, and the future belonged to those brave enough to embrace the unknown together.